Episode 100. 100 episodes of the Absolute Strength Podcast. This is wild. 100 episodes in. I had a lot of ideas for what this 100th episode should be. Initially, I thought, you know what, it'd be cool if I flew out somewhere, interviewed the guest in person, maybe made a cool vlog or a video around it, and then I kind of scrapped that idea and I said, nah, I don't want to do that. Let me pick like the best moments of the first 99 episodes and edit it all together and then have that be the 100th episode. And then I was like, no, that's kind of lame because it's shit everyone's already heard before and I don't really want to do that. And then I just had all these ideas in my head for what this 100th episode should be that I really just couldn't decide. And then it kind of hit me, and this really only hit me within the last week. The 100th episode, yeah, it's a big milestone in terms of, okay, yeah, 100 episodes. That means I've done, I've taken the time, have had the discipline to record 100 episodes, to edit 100 episodes, put in the time that it actually requires to produce it and make the show. Yeah, that's an accomplishment, but it's like anything else. It's like a gym accomplishment. It's like goals in the gym. So, for example, for myself, when I had this grand idea that started when I think maybe my sophomore year of college of benching 405 pounds, the legendary 4 plates. And it took me a long time, a lot of, as I say, blood, sweat, and tears to get to 405. But what's wild about it is once you're in the process of hitting these goals. So, for example, the bench press, once I was in the process of really digging deep and getting close to it, by the time I hit it, it really wasn't anything like I built it up in my head initially. You know what I mean? It's just, as soon as I hit 405, I was excited for like a day. By the next day, I was already had my mindset on what else I was going to do. You hit 415, then 425, and now after I hit 425, I'm like, okay, well, 440 would be like the next milestone. Well, I shoot for that. Then it'd be probably 450. You know what I mean? It's just, there's levels to everything. And that's kind of what hit me with this podcast. Like, okay, well, yeah, I've done 100 episodes. I'm going to make this, big deal out of it. But really, here I am. I'm at 100th episode. And it's not really a big deal to me. Like, I'm not feeling like this is a big deal. And I think partly that is because I've already moved on. Like, I'm okay. We've done 100. I think from 100 to 200, there's going to be a huge growth. And actually, if you've looked at a lot of other podcasts within the fitness industry, and then I think maybe even outside of fitness podcasts, it seems to be 100 to 200 this is an important time. I think 100 to 200 is going to define what the podcast ultimately becomes. So I almost feel that pressure. I'm like, okay, well, from 100 to 200, I have to be on my game. I have to crush this. We got to lay down the foundation here. We got to build upon what we've already done and, just continue to grow. And I'm really excited about that. And I have a lot of cool ideas for the next 100th episode, from 100 to 200. And I think this is going to be huge. I think that the next step is going to be way bigger than the first step. So 100th episode. It's just like another episode. But I will say this. I have an all-star guest for this one, Stefi Cohen. I'm not impressed by many people. I have a high tolerance for being impressed. And I think a lot of it has to do with just, again, it kind of all circles back to what your standards are for things. So for strength, it's funny because when you're a coach and you have to balance it from a coaching perspective, that, hey, you're doing a good job. This PR is great. Keep it up. I'm really proud of you. But you have to balance that with, well, hey, you gotta put it into perspective. Like, okay, yeah. You just hit a 350 pound squat. That's great. That's amazing from where you came from. But look, there's a long way to go. Like, dig in. This is just step one here. This is just part of the process because there's guys your weight squatting 700 pounds. So, 600, whatever. The numbers don't really matter here. I'm just saying, like, okay, there's levels to this. So you always have to play both sides. Okay, yeah, pat on the back, but hey, you have a long way to go. And same with business, same with just people you meet in your day-to-day life. Like, okay, there's if you have high standards for things, it's tough to meet people and say, oh, well, I'm impressed by what you've done, because you might be holding them to someone who's at a completely different level. But then occasionally you meet somebody like Steffi, who she crushes it on all different levels. She is a entrepreneur. She's probably pound for pound the strongest chick in powerlifting. Just super impressive. And I really enjoyed this episode. And she's the perfect guest for episode 100. And you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm really happy to bring you this one. Before we get into it, the Absolute Strength Podcast is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps weightlifters and other health-conscious people get lower rates on their life insurance. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/absolute strength, or mention the promo code Absolute Strength when you talk to a Health IQ agent. I'll put the direct link in the show notes. Okay, episode 100. It's coming at you right now. Stefi Cohen, here we go.
Try out for a team to get a soccer scholarship in San Diego. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it's not something that I ended up doing. I actually transferred over to the University of Miami and had again the opportunity to try out for the team. So it was kind of like a long tryout, not a day tryout. It's kind of, you can come train and, for this season, and we'll let you know what we think at the end, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was really, really struggling with I was 17 at the time I moved here. And I was really, really struggling with the demands of school and just being by myself. It's something I had never done. I lived with my parents back home, and I had a lot of help from my sisters, my friends, etc. So moving to the States was kind of a difficult, rough patch, definitely. So I didn't end up doing that, and that was kind of the beginning of my search for a new sport. Being the competitive person that I am, I was constantly just looking for the next outlet, because for me, I don't know, school, how some people are super competitive in school and they want to get straight A's, and they are, I don't know, they're so prideful of their grades and stuff. I just was never like that. For me, school has always been something that I had to do, especially undergrad and high school. Something I had to do. I took a few classes I enjoyed, but I was perfectly fine with getting B's. Perfectly fine. And getting an A is just kind of a bonus. I honestly didn't care. So I needed something that I could be competitive at, and that was kind of the beginning. I tried a bunch of sports. I tried kickboxing. I tried running half marathons. I tried triathlons. And eventually, with the fever of CrossFit, Noah Olsen?
Yeah, I know Noah.
He goes to school with me. Well, he went to school with me. We were in the same program, and all the professors were always talking about him and what he could do and how good he was and blah, blah, blah. And the gym where he trains at was about 3 miles away from campus. So naturally, ended up taking a trip to Peak 360, and that was kind of the introduction I had to CrossFit. And, CrossFit is the perfect thing for ultra competitive people, because every time.
Oh, for sure.
Every time you walk into the gym, it's a competition. It's all about the leaderboards. It's all about, I don't know how you do in your strength portion, and then your metcons, and everyone's super competitive too. It's almost as if CrossFit just attracts type A people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's like you see a lot of former athletes gravitate towards CrossFit just because there is that huge sport and competition element in the everyday gym. It's not like you have to go to a meet to actually get the competitive side of it.
Absolutely. And you compete against everyone, whoever is next to you. So that was
it's wild that you came across CrossFit with Noah Olsen, who he's one of the best CrossFit guys in the world. Yeah.
I was lucky to have him kind of as a not mentor, but pave the road for the beginnings of my CrossFit quote unquote career, which didn't end up lasting a long time, obviously.
Yeah.
And as what's interesting is that even coming from a semi-professional, or however you want to put it, soccer career, I had never been exposed to weights or to a barbell. So for me, when I first got to the CrossFit gym and I saw girls lifting barbells over their head and dumbbells and huge plates, I don't know, it's something I had never seen before. I thought it was really cool. It's something I really wanted to learn. And so when I was trying to polish my skills for CrossFit, the first thing I thought my biggest weakness was the weights. I was pretty good at gymnastics, bodyweight movements. I was really, really good at anything endurance. Like I could run forever. I was really good at, I don't know, what else is there? Rowing, etc. But the thing that I needed...
all the stuff besides the barbells.
Exactly. But because I had never been exposed to a barbell, I didn't know how to do anything. So I was like, okay, if I want to really be a good CrossFitter, then I probably need to tackle this step by step. Master one discipline at a time kind of thing, because I don't know anything about it. So weightlifting was the first one in my list. And as soon as I started doing weightlifting, I kind of felt like I could be good at it. And I met a few people who competed in Olympic weightlifting. I came across a really good weightlifting coach. His name is Camilo Garcia. He still coaches me. He used to actually coach in Venezuela, the national team, and in Cuba. So,
oh wow,
yeah, tons of
experience. Did you know each other before you came to the States?
No, not really. No, I knew nothing about weightlifting at all.
All right, yeah.
So he saw me and he's like, honestly, I think you should stop doing CrossFit. I think you have something in you. I think you could be really good at weightlifting. Give me a few months. I'm never gonna charge you for coaching. Give me a few months. Just show up, and I'll promise you, I'll make you the best weightlifter you can be.
What? How long ago was this?
This was about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So that was it. I started doing Olympic weightlifting, started getting really good. Then I met Hayden. That was kind of the bridge from weightlifting to powerlifting. Hayden said, when I started grad school, it was really hard for me to stick to an Olympic weightlifting. I don't know if you do Olympic weightlifting, but...
Yeah. I actually used to. I actually dabbled in CrossFit back in 2012 or 2013 and got into weightlifting a little bit. Really, really enjoyed it. I actually thought initially that I'd be more suited to do weightlifting than powerlifting. But the one little detail is the bench press. Now, if they would ever put the bench press in Olympic weightlifting, I'm joking, everybody, but if they did, I probably would have stuck to weightlifting.
I hate bench, so I honestly can't relate at all.
Yeah, see, me, I'm all about the bench. So, like, if weightlifting had the bench, I never would have went to powerlifting because, I like squatting, but see, we're completely different. Like deadlift, I don't want any part of that. I just do that because I have to.
I don't think we can be friends anymore.
No, I don't think so. Well, your deadlift is too big anyway for me to be friends with you.
Anyway, so Hayden, so during grad school, you know how mentally taxing Olympic weightlifting can be. So for me to finish an 8-hour long day where I've been using my brain the whole time, just to have to go to the gym alone, usually late at night, and have to do Olympic weightlifting was like excruciating. Every single session would end in either me dropping down the weight or not completing the whole session or just crying in a corner. So I wasn't having fun. It wasn't worth it. So Hayden suggested, hey, why don't you just focus on things where you don't have to think that much? Things where you can just push yourself as hard as you can for that day, but that aren't mentally taxing. So
aren't quite as technical.
Exactly. So that was the beginning. I started slowly dropping down on the Olympic weightlifting frequency and started upping the strength movement. So I ended up, squatting, benching, and deadlifting way more than I was Olympic weightlifting, and that was kind of like the switch. And then I started competing in powerlifting. That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's wild. What were just out of curiosity, what were your starting numbers, like the first numbers you remember once you switched over to powerlifting?
I think back then I was squatting around 305. Yeah, squatting 305, benching nothing, like 150. Yeah, 100.
Well, it's still over your body weight to when you get into it. That's pretty good.
Decent. 150 and deadlifting about 315.
Oh, that's awesome. So then in 2 years, what are your current maxes? Yeah.
So now I'm squatting 415. I'm benching 215 and deadlifting 525.
It seems like your deadlift keeps going up.
Yeah.
Like every time I see a video you post on Instagram, it's like either more reps or heavier weight.
I know. It's deadlift is kind of my calling. I don't know. It's what I'm supposed to do. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a little bit longer arms?
You know what? So there's actually I posted this a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago. There's a formula you can do to measure your arms and your torso and your height, and it takes your proportion. So it's not only like if you have long arms or a short torso, it takes into account your height, your torso, and your arm length, and then it tells you when you plug it in, it tells you whether you'd be better suited for sumo or for conventional. And when I did it, it told me that I would be good at either. Like I was like average, which is totally not true. Mm-hmm. So based on my proportions, I don't know. I don't think I have long arms then, if based on that. But I could.
No, not based off that. Yeah, well, it just seems like, it's weird because the way powerlifting is set up, it's like you're either very suited to pull and then you hate the bench, or you have T-Rex arms like me, short arms, and you love bench pressing, but pulling's a pain in the ass. Sure. Seems like it's one or the other.
Yeah. Well,
like it's very rare to see someone who's a big deadlifter and also like a really big bencher.
Oh, no, my bench is not that good.
No. Yeah. It's still good for your weight. What weight do you compete at? Like 123, is it?
123, but I think the world record in my weight class is like 275. Around.
And what's your best?
My best is 215 in comp.
Yeah. What are the other records in your weight class compared to your lifts?
Oh, I hold them. I hold the squat and the...
Oh, you hold both of them?
Yep.
Well, shit. That's pretty impressive.
Everyone talks about my deadlift, but my squat's actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really good too. I mean, it's over 400 pounds when you weigh 123. I mean, that's
a good squat.
Crazy impressive. So speaking of your deadlift, when you hit that video, it kind of went viral around the fitness community, the 525. Mm-hmm. What was your opinion on that?
That particular one deadlift?
That one particular video.
About it?
Yeah, everything that was said. Because I'm sure you're aware there was a ton of like bullshit around it.
Yeah, so much. Okay, so here's the thing. When I train, I usually, if it's in training, I'm usually wearing straps. And I had never missed a deadlifting competition on grip, first of all. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm wearing the strap because I wouldn't be able to do it without the straps. That's the first thing, and kind of one of the first controversial things. Oh, she wouldn't be able to do it without the straps. That was the first one. The second one was the fact that they were bumper plates. I honestly don't think that helped me out at all, because as the barbell leaves the floor, when there's more oscillation on the bar, it can definitely, especially in sumo, it can definitely take you out of place. And that bar was full from beginning to start. Like it was all, there was not an inch of space left to put another plate. So that's not good either. I mean, I get it. Like maybe a little bit more bend could help you, but that amount of bend and that amount of wobble, especially because it was an Olympic weightlifting bar, it wasn't even a deadlift bar. That amount of wobble.
Yeah, it was just like a rogue bar, right?
Yeah, it was just a rogue women's weightlifting bar. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't helping me. In fact, when I locked it out, I almost like got a little bit out of position. I didn't even think it was completely locked out until I saw the video. Uh-huh. And then, I don't know, were there any comments about the bar? Well, obviously people saying that I wouldn't have been able to do it if it was a stiff bar, which I think it's one of the silliest comments I had ever heard, because it takes skill for you to learn how to pull in a deadlift bar, and it takes skill for you to learn how to pull in a stiff bar. And in fact, up until this year, I was training on a stiff bar because I didn't have access to deadlift bars all the time. So most of my, going into competitions, going into meets, I hadn't touched that deadlift bar. And that never also affected me at all.
Yeah, well, my biggest thing about it when I was reading it, like I feel like there's a huge difference between anything you do in the gym and anything you do in competition, regardless. So this was an in the gym lift. I mean, when you go on social media, you see all types of people using straps and bumper plates. and no one really says anything until, someone puts up a huge number that blows people's minds, and now people start nitpicking it. You see what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely.
It's not like you were saying, oh, it's not like you were in a meet and, you squatted high and they passed it. And then you're saying, hey, I set the world record on the squat, but it was a mile high type thing. No, this was just in the gym lift.
Yeah, I just lifted. Exactly. I couldn't agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people just chose to pick on. And I didn't say anything about it either. It was just like max out day at the gym, 525, and then people went crazy ripping on it. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably a mix of a couple different things. I think one is this idea that, and I get it. It's like, I think it stems from the IPF, but then it's a little bit in the USAPL too, which I compete in the USAPL and I love that organization, but some of the people get this elitist mentality that if you're not, competing or lifting under those specific requirements, then it's almost doesn't matter what you do. They just want to put you down for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You agree with that?
Honestly, but at the same time, I felt, there were obviously a few comments from people who lifted in the USAPL, but I felt a lot of support from the elite lifters from the USAPL.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think because elite lifters, like the top of, the people who actually are competing for world championships, they respect it. It's like real respect, like they can respect the number that you hit. It was an amazing lift. So you're never going to see someone who's at the top of their game ever say anything negative about someone else who's also at the top of their game. You'll never see that.
Exactly. It's just the rest of the people.
It's wild. So what's your training like these days?
So I'm kind of like in a little bit of an off season right now. I totally thought I was going to have more time to be on an off season, and then all these things just kept popping up. So, for me, the off season is I haven't been pulling sumo at all. I'm focusing on things I don't usually focus on. So a lot of stiff-legged deadlifts, conventional deadlifts from a 3-inch deficit, pause deadlifts, pause squats, safety, a lot more safety bar, just things that I don't usually do. A lot of upper body. So I'm benching 3 times per week. And those 3 times have like 6 different accessories for upper body.
Oh, wow.
I usually, that's the opposite of what I usually do. I usually just focus on squat and deadlift, and then bench is kind of whatever I do that day, if I can fit it in kind of thing. So off season is just about that, focusing on things I don't usually do and trying to fill in the gaps. And like I was saying, I thought I was going to have a lot more time because the only thing on my competition calendar was the US Open and WRPF finals.
Yep.
So that's like May and October. But then all of a sudden I got, there's an MB slingshot pool and slingshot bench competition that Mark wants me to go to. So I might go.
Yeah, that's like next month, isn't it?
Yeah, it's January something. Then in February, my whole team signed up for this competition in Florida, and they want me to do it with them. Then in March, I might be lifting in the animal cage. I also got an opportunity to fly to Australia and do the Australian Arnold. Like all these crazy things, like amazing opportunities that I would love to take up on, all of them. But I just don't know how it's going to work out because I'm still in school. So I still have to do my whatever I have to do. And I don't know. It's kind of all up in the air. But
we'll be right back to the show after a word from our sponsor, Health IQ. Absolute Strength is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps weightlifters and other health-conscious people get lower rates on their life insurance. They are also the official life insurance partner of USA Weightlifting. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates on life insurance. Physically active people have a 56% lower risk of heart disease, 20% lower risk of cancer, and a 58% lower risk of diabetes compared to people who are inactive. I like to compare this to saving money on your car insurance for being a good driver. Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. If you think you're too young to worry about life insurance, Life insurance companies calculate your policy rates based on your nearest age, not your actual age. And rates increase as you get older. So lock in the best rate possible by getting a free quote today. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/absolute strength or mention the promo code absolute strength when you talk to a Health IQ agent. Look, this really hits home for me. I just recently got married. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I have a family to support. You hate to think about it, but if something ever happened to me, what happens to my family? I feel it's irresponsible not to have coverage. The truth is, you just never know. I mean, you never know. We live in a crazy world, and it's just better to be insured. So what's unique about Health IQ? When it comes to life insurance, weightlifters usually have issues getting good rates because of BMI. BMI stands for body mass index, and it can't tell the difference between muscle and fat. For example, I'm 5'5" and 165 pounds, and based off from my BMI, I'd actually be considered overweight, despite being in good shape and relatively low body fat as well. Health IQ works with carriers to ensure strength trainers, guys who lift weights and have a bigger BMI, because of that, a buffer to account for the added weight from muscle mass. You owe it to yourself to give this a shot. 56% of Health IQ clients get exclusive special rates. To see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/absolute strength or mention the promo code absolute strength when you talk to a Health IQ agent. I will put the direct link in the show notes. Yeah, so you're benching 3 times a week. I've always found that higher frequency on bench seems to work best.
I think so for me too. I just am 1, too lazy, and 2, I hate it. I honestly hate bench.
Yeah, it's just not something you enjoy.
I understand.
What so when you're in a competition prep, how's your frequency and everything change?
Comp prep, I usually bench twice a week, and it's not a lot of volume. So this is, right now I'm doing, 4 sets of 6, and then drop downs, or 5 sets of 5. Whereas comp prep, I usually work up to a heavy set, and that's it.
That's about it, yeah. What about for the other lifts?
For the other lifts, honestly, it really depends. It really depends on how the prep has been going and what my energy levels are like, but usually it's similar to that. So I usually, whatever the rep scheme is, let's say I'm doing 5, 6, 4, whatever, usually work up to a heavy max for the day, and then I would drop down and do a couple more sets, whatever feels comfortable that day.
Yeah. Do you use like the RPE scale or more percentage based stuff?
Neither. So kind of like a background story to this. I got injured earlier this year, and I was following a percentage system. And for me, it was kind of whatever was written on that page is what I had to do. Yeah. But to my detriment, even the days where your back really hurts or your legs or your butt, whatever, you would still go to that percentage, and it really ends up hindering you more than it's helping you. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting really, really hurt and pretty much wasting half of the training year. I was out until at least May.
This is last year or this year? Oh, wow.
So I bombed out of the U.S. Open, and I had just had the worst prep. I had the worst low back pain. I could barely walk. Like, it wasn't even about training. It was about daily living stuff. I could barely walk, could barely sit. In class, I was just standing in the back, So just not a good place. And still, I was still going to train and trying to hit those percentages, which it seems so stupid. Especially, I'm a physical therapy student. I know I shouldn't be doing all of that, but in my head, I'm a competitor first. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to back off. This is what the training says. This is what needs to be done. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. Mm-hmm. So it ended up biting me on my butt. And that's kind of when I made the change. I said, maybe percentage based and speaking to what the plan says, it's not the best for me. Maybe I need to try something different. And that's when I started doing like auto regulation kind of stuff. So whatever the percentage was, I would hit a max. So not necessarily RPE. Like for me, it's an RPE 10 every time I walk into the gym. If it's a 5 rep, it's an RPE 10 5. Like I can't even squeeze a half a rep more.
So it's more like kind of like a max effort?
Max effort every day in whatever rep scheme. Okay.
So do you do that in the off season too, or is that just for competition prep?
Okay. Off season is lots of volume in everything. Lots of volume in squat, lots of volume in bench and deadlift.
And you'll leave like a few reps in the tank in the off season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I push squat a little bit, but definitely not like I do usually in a prep cycle.
So like in the off season, do you do like straight sets? So whereas versus like in your competition prep, you'll like work up to the heaviest set of 5 you can do. In the off season, you'll work up to, I don't know, whatever you can maintain for a few sets, or not really.
Yeah, so I'm staying in around the 65% to 70% to 75% range usually, and I will do multiple sets at that percentage.
But no, yeah, that's pretty interesting. I kind of like how I have that set up.
It works for me.
Yeah. So when you got injured, was it like a chronic thing, or did you notice like one day you got out of position and were just, shit, I hurt myself, or did it like slowly develop?
It was a combination. So I took a month off of training in December unwillingly. I was traveling and I was in Japan, and it was so hard to find gyms, and it was also New Year, so most gyms were closed like a week before and a week after. So it just ended up being I trained maybe once a week for 4 weeks. So I had 4 training sessions in a month, which is pretty much like doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I came back and I had 4 months to prepare for the US Open that was in April. And you know how it is. I mean, you're so stressed out about having lost so much strength that you want to push yourself way harder than you should.
Yeah, you want to make up time.
Because you want to make up the time that you lost. Exactly. So this competition was a raw classic. So it was with reps. And that's even worse because I was able to put a lot more weight on my back than I was actually ready for. Every single time. So it ended up kind of slowly developing, it ended up just being kind of a little bit nagging pain on the left side of my back, on my sacrum. And then I just kept training. And then it ended up being kind of throughout the whole training session. Then it just started being during the training and after, then all day. And it just kind of like progressed to just constant low back pain. I'd never got any imaging done or a concise diagnosis, even though I saw a bunch of PTs and chiros. No one could really tell me what it was. There was some speculation as to maybe it was a herniated disc. I got, I don't know, a lumbar strain. I got SI dysfunction. I got piriformis syndrome. Like everyone just threw a diagnosis.
Yeah. Just kind of everyone just throwing things out, and someone has to be right.
Exactly. But honestly, like as soon as the competition was over and I started taking time, I took 2 months off of the barbell. I was still training really hard. So I was doing a lot of cardio and a lot of kettlebell and dumbbell stuff. So I was training every day, maybe for 2 to 3 hours, but not doing any barbell stuff. And every day I just started feeling a little bit better. So I thought to myself, maybe, it's nothing too serious. I didn't think it was a herniated disc at that point, and it's slowly got better. So I'm good. Here we are.
Yeah. So it just was like a thing that you just let it play out, and kind of, you didn't do anything really specific outside of taking time off the barbell? Or did you have specific kind of like rehab type stuff that you did?
Yeah, I definitely did rehab specific type stuff. So I did a lot of, have you ever heard of Stuart McGill? Yep. Yeah. So I did the McGill Big 3. I read his book, Low Back Performance, and it's a great book for anyone, not just for people with low back pain, honestly. But I read his book, Low Back Performance, and started implementing a lot of the things he says. So the aerobic conditioning portion I took from that book too, where he talks about just increasing blood flow in general, just making blood move through your body helps tissues heal. So one thing, the main mistake of people when they're hurt is that they get so depressed and sad and they just don't want to move because they can't do the activity that they like to do, that they end up not doing anything.
Yeah, they become really sedentary.
Exactly. It's the first mistake. So he talks a lot about doing cardio especially for low back pain. So I was doing my 20 to 30 minutes of cardio every day. And then I was doing the McGill Big 3, which is a side plank, a mini crunch, and bird dogs religiously, like multiple times a day. And then I was doing a bunch of just unilateral training type stuff. So farmer carries or suitcase carries with one hand, Bulgarian split squats, lunges, one arm press, that kind of stuff. Stuff that would just make me feel good, and that would kind of increase my core strength and stability.
Yeah, I tell you what, I feel like most powerlifters should implement unilateral movements more. You don't see them programmed very often.
No, I totally agree. And even I've talked programming with a lot of high level lifters, and I've asked them what do you do for I'm not going to mention any names, but this guy who is one of the best powerlifters in the world, I asked him, so he was asking me about his hip and how he's having hip pain. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do for legs besides squatting? And he goes, well, lunges every now and then. And I'm like, man, you really need to do other stuff. You need to move in different planes.
Yep.
You need to move laterally. You need to move front and back. You need to do some jumping. You need to do some cardio. You can't over specify like that, because that's when chronic problems really start appearing.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the powerlifting community has kind of shifted away towards because back in the day that kind of was how it was done. It's like, okay, we change a lot of exercises, do a lot of bodybuilding type accessories, and then there's the shift away from that more towards specificity, to where even people went so far to pretty much only doing the main 3 lifts. And like you said, that's going to cause problems. You're going to get overuse injuries, and then you're just not working all the different planes of motion, and you're not doing any type of unilateral work. There's going to be a problem with movement, most likely.
Exactly. And yeah, I think I don't know why people started changing the training like that and not paying attention to these kind of things. I was going to say maybe it's a problem with education, people aren't educated enough about how to train. Maybe coaches aren't putting out the right information, or I don't know. Just the other day I posted something on Instagram about rounding your lower back in the deadlifts. Mm-hmm. And I posted a few corrective exercises, and I had a couple comments of people saying, why would you do different things to fix, different movements to fix a deadlift, instead of just dropping the weight and increasing the volume in that one lift to perfect the form? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're talking about. You can't always just fix your form by continuing to perform a faulty movement. It's not. Yeah,
a lot of times. I was just going to say that a lot of times if you're having an issue with, we'll just use the deadlift for example. If you're having an issue rounding your lower back in the deadlift and doing more of it, you're probably setting up wrong. There's probably a issue at some point in the movement. So just doing more of that is just going to make the problem worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
it also doesn't mean that because you can do it at 50% of your 1 rep max with proper form, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to maintain that same form when you're maxing out or when you're doing a heavy percentage.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, because I think it was I think how Kelly Starrett will say it is pretty much all form and movement is just it's everyone can move well until there's a load, until you test that load. So yeah, you might be able to handle 50%, perfect, and you might be able to repeat that for weeks. But then as soon as you go back to that heavy percentage, your form is going to break down again. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Exactly. I think the whole shift towards specificity, probably it's almost like how when I know in the United States, in high school, they'll have state tests. So I grew up in New York, so we would have New York state tests for science and math. And what would happen is the teachers, instead of actually teaching a course on math, would really just teach us for the test. So we really wouldn't know anything about the subject. We would just know what's going to be on the test. I almost feel like that's why powerlifters shift towards specificity. It's okay, we're not really going to train you completely. We're just going to train you for the test and just do that, And then if something happens, well, we'll deal with it then. Not really accounting for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to get into your your business. You got a gym, you have an online thing. Was entrepreneurship always something that you had that mindset for, or kind of did you fall into that?
No, always. Ever since I've had a memory, I've always felt and thought that I could never work for someone else.
Yep. Well, I've had that same idea.
Yeah, it's just not, I don't know, not what I want to do. So, I mean, just to give you a quick example, I think when I was 12 is the first time I did any business. And I actually came here to the States. I was still living in Venezuela. I came here to the States and I found this hair product that all girls in Venezuela wanted to get. It's called keratin treatment. So I bought a few bottles. I watched a few YouTube tutorials on how to do it. And let's say each bottle cost $50 or something. I would go back with my $50 bottles, and I would sell each bottle had maybe 15 applications, and I would sell each application at $200.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, I've always had that in me. I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I've always been just kind of creative and thinking to myself, what's the next big thing I can do? How can I make more money doing less? Or how can I make myself more comfortable without having to do too much work or working for anyone else? I actually never had the only job I've had in my life has been as a research assistant for a year, and just because I really, really liked it, not because I needed the money, because I was making money through other like side businesses like that always.
Yeah.
So
how young were you when you started doing these little side businesses?
I think 13.
Really? What was the first thing you remember doing?
The first thing was that hair.
Oh, really? That was the first thing.
Yeah.
Then what are a couple other things? What did that evolve into?
So the next one was singlets. I found this guy in Venezuela also who made really, really cheap singlets. So which are actually really expensive in Venezuela. It's just when I do the translation into US dollars, it's not a lot at all. So it's $2 to $3 per singlet, and I was selling them here at $85.
Oh wow, that's a nice markup.
So I just had to sell a few for my extra cash pocket.
That's
money.
Awesome. It's weird because, and this kind of like lends itself that you grew up in Venezuela and not the United States, because in the United States, entrepreneurship, the mindset is kind of frowned upon. I mean, maybe not so much now in 2017, but when I was growing up in school, it just wasn't anything that was taught. It was like, you got to go to school and you got to get a regular, normal job. So I think maybe that because you didn't grow up in the States, it might have helped you.
Absolutely. The way I see it is like here in the States, you have these kind of like pre-made paths.
Yep.
That people just take, and that's just kind of what's expected of them. You graduate from high school, then you go to college, you get your degree, and then you go find a job. And that's just kind of what you do. Whereas in Venezuela, we really don't have that many opportunities even. So there's not a lot of jobs, there's not a lot of opportunities, there's not a lot of companies. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So there's a saying in Spanish that says, o corres o te encaramas, and that basically means either you run or you kind of like hold on to a tree. Meaning like you just have to do whatever you have to do to survive.
Yep.
And that's a mentality that seriously a lot of Venezuelan people have. Like they're go-getters. You just got to figure it out on your own without waiting for anyone to hand you anything.
Yeah, you just got to take action. Like, just action takers, like, and that goes for everything. Business, life, training. It's so easy to wait for handouts or wait for a perfect opportunity or wait for the right time. You just can't do that. If you want something, you just have to go and take action and go fight for it. You got to just do it.
And you have to have initiative.
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't think enough people, again, it kind of goes back to how people are raised. It's like, it's this, when there's a nice clear path, yeah, it's nice because you have a direction to follow, but then it's easy to get comfortable in that. So then you just fall into the path of everybody else. And then I think what happens is, and then even on top of, because when I started my business when I was young, I was 17, and my family and people close to me, they were, not doing it intentionally, but they're kind of saying like, hey, why don't you try something safe? Why don't you just get a normal job? Why are you trying to be an entrepreneur? Like, it's tough when you don't have a lot of support.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So what are you doing now? You have the gym and an online business. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yep. So we have the Hybrid Performance Method online business. It's basically an online virtual gym that offers online programming specifically for Olympic weightlifters, powerlifters, and bodybuilders.
Cool.
So kind of our most popular program is the hybrid performance, which is the combination of Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, and functional bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. But then, like I said, we have only Olympic weightlifting, only powerlifting. We have kind of like a return to sports program. It's called Hybrid 101 for people who get injured or take time off. We have a deadlift only program, an upper body only, a squat only. The nice thing about it is that they're all included in the same membership, it's an interesting concept because I don't think I know any other online programming companies who are doing it this way. So basically, for $30 a month, you get access to all of the programs.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, which is nice because shit happens. You get injured. You don't have that much time to train. You want to focus on one particular thing or whatever that might be. So the good thing is that it has a lot of flexibility. So you can just switch back and forth without having to ask anyone or do anything like that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then the gym is something more recent that we started around May, mainly out of necessity. There's no gyms in Miami that can accommodate for Olympic weightlifting and powerlifting. And like I said, I train hybrid a lot of the time, and I like to a couple times per week maybe just mess around with some snatches or do some jerks from the blocks or do some cleans. And also I like to have a deadlift bar. And also I like to do some strongman stuff. I like to have my farmer carries. I like to have my stones. I do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And there's really no gyms in Miami that have all of that. So it was kind of just a place for Hayden and I to train. And then people started to get interested in it. So we decided to open the doors for people to come in and train too.
I can completely relate to that because I live in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, and man, there's no gym around here that really accommodates even just powerlifting. Like I end up just training at a gym that's close by. It's not really a commercial gym, but it's a gym more catered towards just everyday lifting and more bodybuilding than powerlifting. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So I've kind of been, playing with the ideas like, man, I wonder if there would be a market for a powerlifting specific gym.
It's tough. And let me tell you, it's tough because even when you think that there could be a lot of powerlifters in your area, there's way less than you actually think.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what's always kind of held me up on the concept.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And even in weightlift, when we opened the hybrid gym, I'm like, oh, awesome. We're probably going to have a weightlifting team and blah, blah, blah. And I think we have maybe 5 Olympic weightlifters. Mm-hmm. It's like 5 Olympic weightlifters, maybe, I would say most of the people are just like general, people who want to come train.
Yeah.
Most of them are powerlifters, but not all of them. So.
Yeah, I hear you. I think maybe the play for me would just to be have a little garage and just have a place for me and my friends to train. That might be the play. For sure.
That's the move. Because honestly, people don't, sorry to interrupt you, but last thing about this, people don't realize, a lot of people that are passionate about fitness, they want to open their own gym and they think about it as, oh my gosh, I'm going to open my own gym. It's going to be sick. And I'm going to have so many people working out here and all the powerlifters are going to want to train here. And it's just not the way it happens.
Yep.
Seriously, not the way it happens. Like you really need to do some solid market research. You really need to figure out who's around you that will pay for it. What is your target audience like? What kind of people what's the demographic going to be like? You really need to do some research if you're going to invest any kind of money in a gym before you do it, and have some secondary plans other than the gym. Like people like to hire personal trainers to be at the gym and generate some revenue there, or people like to rent out spaces for chiropractors or physical therapists to come in and see patients out of there. But if you, or have some personal training clients yourself, I don't know, something, but just having the gym there open is definitely not going to be enough.
Oh, yeah, of course. And especially when you're trying to do a niche type gym like powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting, because kind of like you said, like really to keep the doors open, to keep the lights on, you're going to rely on at least a normal membership base of clients who aren't specifically powerlifters or Olympic weightlifters. You're going to have to rely on just your average person. And then you're competing with the cheap gyms like Planet Fitness or box gyms, and your average person who just wants to go to the gym and do some cardio and machines, they're just going to pay $10 a month at Planet Fitness.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's wild. So what are your powerlifting goals for 2018?
Yeah. As far as number goes?
Yeah, as far as numbers. Do you have some numbers in your head?
Yes. So, well, for squat, if I squat with reps, let's say at the US Open. So for squat, 450 squat. For bench, nothing crazy. Whatever I do that day. 225 would be a really good goal. So from 215 to 225.
We'll put it this way. Just from a bro standpoint, if you walk into any gym and bench 225,
that's pretty decent.
That's really good. So, yeah. And you're a 120-pound female. So you do have that going for you. Your bench isn't as bad as you make it seem.
Okay, so 2 plates.
It's
really
2
good
plates. Goal. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of teenage boys that would die for that.
Die for it. Uh-huh. Okay, let's make it 2 plates.
2 plates, yeah. 225. You go in bench 225, and you have pretty much half the males in every high school in America would take that. Probably more of them. Probably 75, 80% of them would take that. Even the big kids, the kids that play football and weigh 250 pounds.
Perfect. That's my main goal, to impress high school kids.
Yeah. I think that's what I still try to do that.
Most important thing.
That's why I only care about my bench.
And for deadlift, man, I don't know. I would love to close out 2018 with a 600-pound deadlift.
That would be insane.
And to put it this way, people are calling me crazy when I said I hashtagged half kiddingly #road to 600 in one of my deadlifts, and oh my gosh, did I get people were saying things.
They took it a little too serious?
Yeah, which, you know what? Like, to me, I don't think it's impossible.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I was kind of joking, but every time I look at your Instagram, it looks like you're deadlifting heavier or with more reps. Like every time I look. Yeah,
deadlift is my jam.
Seriously.
I know I'm going to be able to. I didn't say I'm going to deadlift 600 pounds tomorrow or next month. I just said road to 600, and people were going crazy about it. But yeah, I think I can definitely close out 2018 with a 600-pound deadlift. If you think about it this way, so I mentioned I was injured for half of the year, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that from January until at least June or July, I wasn't deadlifting, or I was doing sub-max stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So all of my deadlift progress from this year has been a period of 5 months. So in 5 months, I went from what was my best? From like a 445 to a 525 in 5 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think 600 could be there.
I think so too.
Now to get to 600, just hypothetically speaking here, do you think you'd have to change anything about what you're currently doing or currently programming to get, to 600?
No, the only thing that I've been changing is, or that I'm planning to change, is doing more reps without straps. And not because I think that my grip's not going to be strong, but mainly because it slightly changes the mechanics of the lift.
Yep.
So just doing more reps without straps.
Yeah. I think
either dropping down or doing a few training sessions without them to just kind of get used to it.
Yeah. So yeah, that would probably be about the only thing. But man, that'd be crazy. 600 pounds.
That would be crazy. Even without a 600. So my projected total for the US Open, that's assuming that I don't make any progress from here to there. That the only progress I make is from putting the wraps on. Mm-hmm. I think I would have like a 640 like a 640 Wilks. If I don't make any
that's wild.
And that beats the all-time best Wilks by like 10.
That's nuts.
So we'll see.
Big goals for 2018.
Big year.
It's gonna be a big year for you, I can tell.
Yep.
Steffi, this has been awesome. How can people get more information about you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Stefi Cohen. Also follow Hybrid at hybridperformancemethod.com. No, just at Hybrid Performance Method.
Cool. I'll put the links to those in the show notes.
Awesome.
This has been fun.
Thank you for having me, Kyle.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Absolute Strength Podcast. I know I had a ton of fun producing it for you. And before you go, if you could just drop me some feedback, I'd love it. I love reading your feedback. So you can go over to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating, write a little review, what you think of the podcast. I absolutely love it. I read every single one. But it's cool if you don't want to do that. I get it. No one wants to really go out of their way to do anything, let alone write a review. But I want to get your feedback. So drop me a line on Instagram at Hunt Fitness, or on Facebook, Kyle Hunt, or on Twitter, or send a pigeon or something. I don't know. I just want to hear your feedback. So if you want to give me some feedback, let me know what you think. Hit me up on Instagram at Hunt Fitness. And before you go, I have one last thing I want to say. I have a program I want you to check out. It's actually called the Absolute Strength Program, and the link is in the show notes. It's a program I designed to help increase my own squat, bench, and deadlift. And I got pretty strong off of it, and I think you're going to like it. It's a great book. Thousands of people have got amazing results from it. It's in the show notes. All right, guys. Until next time, until next episode, peace.